Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, dear devotees and Pranams. Thank you for joining in for our Bhagavad Gita study session. Let's begin with the prayers. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. मम ज्ञानतिमिरन्दस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशकारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंदा श्री अद्वैत गदाधार श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंदा। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे। हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna. So we are reading from Bhagavad Gita chapter number 3. Last week on Monday, when we discussed Bhagavad Gita, we discussed about how a person who identifies this body as all in all and goes to a worshipable land only to take a bath rather than to discuss Krishna Katha, to meet men of transcendental knowledge and hear about Krishna, such a person is considered to be an ass or a cow. So today we are going to continue from text number 41 of the third chapter of Srimad Bhagavad Gita. Text number 41. I hope the screen is visible. Tasmat tvam indriyan yanyo niyamya bharatarshabha papmanam prajahihenam jnana vijnana nashanam. Suranam's word meaning. Tasmat, therefore, tvam you, indriyani, senses, adau, in the beginning, niyamya, by regulating, Bharatarshabha, O chief amongst the descendants of Bharata, Papmanam, the great symbol of sin, Rajahi, curb, he certainly, Enam, this, Jnana, of knowledge, Vijnana, and scientific knowledge of the pure soul, Nashanam, the destroyer. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Therefore, Arjuna, best of the Bharatas, in the very beginning, curbed this great symbol of sin, lust, by regulating the senses, and slay this destroyer of knowledge and self-realization. Purport by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The Lord advised Arjuna to regulate the senses from the very beginning, so that he could curb the greatest sinful enemy, lust, which destroys the urge for self-realization and specific knowledge of the self. Jnana refers to knowledge of the self as distinguished from non-self. Or in other words, knowledge, the spirit soul, is not the body. Vijnana refers to specific knowledge of the spirit soul's constitutional position and his relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna. This is explained in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Jnanam paramaguhyam me yad vijnana samanvitam sa rahasyam tadangam cha gruhana gaditam maya. The knowledge of the self and Supreme Self is very confidential and mysterious, but such knowledge and specific realization can be understood if explained with their various aspects by the Lord himself. Bhagavad Gita gives that general and specific knowledge of the self. The living entities are parts and parcels of the Lord, and therefore they are simply meant to serve their Lord. This consciousness is called Krishna consciousness. So, from the very beginning of life, one has to learn this Krishna consciousness and thereby become Krishna consciousness and act accordingly. Lust is only the perverted reflection of the love of God, which is natural for all living entities. But if one is educated in Krishna consciousness in the very beginning, that natural love of God cannot deteriorate into lust. When love of God deteriorates into lust, it is very difficult to return to the normal condition. Nonetheless, Krishna consciousness is so powerful that even a late beginner can become a lover of God by following the regulative principles of devotional service. So from any stage of life or from the time of understanding its urgency, one can begin regulating the senses in Krishna consciousness, devotional service of the Lord, and turn the lust into love of God, the highest perfectional stage of human life. So in this text 41, Shobha Mataji, I'm in the temple, so I'll read it myself. So basically in text number 41, Prabhupada is talking about following the four regulative principles. What are the four regulative principles? No meat eating, no gambling, no intoxication, no illicit sex. So Prabhupada mentions that ahara nidra bhayamaitunamcha samanyamekam pashubir naranam dharmo hi eko adhiko vishesho dharmena hinam pashubir samanam. So in the previous class also we discussed the distinction between a man and an animal is that the man is able to make an inquiry. Why is it I'm suffering in this world? What is the distinguishing factor between a being an animal and being a human being? If you are simply engaging in ahara nidra bhaya maituram, simply eating, sleeping, mating and defending, then we are no better than animals. So the first step is to understand or to reason or to inquire, why am I here? What is the purpose of my life? So when that inquiry is done and the basic regulative principles of no meat eating, no gambling, no intoxication, no illicit sex, that is followed, then only we come to the platform of being a human being. And once a person understands the Sambandha Gyan, who am I? What is my relationship with God? What is my duty towards the Supreme Lord? How can I go back home, back to Godhead? How can I revive love for Krishna? Then one actually engages in the process of devotional service. And then when one begins devotional service under the guidance of a bona fide guru, then one easily is able to transcend the three modes of nature and one is able to go back home, back to Godhead. Okay, let's move on to text number 42. Text 42. Indriyani paranyaho indriyebhya param manah manasastu para buddhir yo buddhe paratastu saha. Indriyani senses, parani superior, ahu are said, indriyebhya more than the senses, param superior, mana the mind, manasaha more than the mind, two also, para superior, buddhi intelligence, yahu, buddhe more than the intelligence, parataha superior, two but saha he. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The working senses are superior to dull matter. Mind is higher than the senses. Intelligence is higher than the mind. And the soul is even higher than the intelligence. The senses are different outlets for the activities of lust. Lust is reserved within the body, but it is given vent through the senses. Therefore, the senses are superior to the body as a whole. These outlets are not in use when there is superior consciousness or Krishna consciousness. In Krishna consciousness, the soul makes direct connection with the Supreme Lord. Therefore, the hierarchy of bodily functions as described here ultimately ends in the super soul. Bodily action means the functions of the senses, and stopping the senses means stopping all bodily actions. But since the mind is active, even though the body may be silent and at rest, mind will act as it does during dreaming. But above the mind is a determination of the intelligence, and above the intelligence is the soul proper. If therefore the soul is directly engaged with the Supreme, naturally all other subordinates, namely the intelligence, the mind, and the senses, will be automatically engaged. In the Katha Upanishad, there is a similar passage in which it is said that the objects of sense gratification are superior to the senses, and mind is superior to sense objects. If therefore the mind is directly engaged in the service of the Lord constantly, then there is no chance that the senses will become engaged in other ways. This mental attitude has already been explained. Param drishtva nivartate. If the mind is engaged in the transcendental service of the Lord, there is no chance of its being engaged in the lower propensities. In the Katha Upanishad, the soul has been described as Mahan, the great. Therefore, the soul is above all, namely the sense objects, the senses, the mind, and the intelligence. Therefore, directly understanding the constitutional position of the soul is the solution of the whole problem. With intelligence, one has to seek out the constitutional position of the soul and then engage the mind always in Krishna consciousness. That solves the whole problem. A neophyte spiritualist is generally advised to keep aloof from the objects of the senses. But aside from that, one has to strengthen the mind by the use of intelligence. If by intelligence one engages one's mind in Krishna consciousness by complete surrender under the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then automatically the mind becomes stronger. And even though the senses are very strong, like serpents, they will be no more effective than serpents with broken fangs. And even though the soul is a master of intelligence and the mind, and the senses also, still, unless it is strengthened by association with Krishna, in Krishna consciousness, there is every chance of falling down with the agitated mind. So, mantrayati iti mantra, it is said. Mantrayati iti mantra means the mind can be controlled by practicing mantra meditation. And what is the mantra meditation that is prescribed in this age of Kali? It is the chanting of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So when we are chanting this Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, then automatically our mind becomes dovetailed in the service of the Lord. The mind starts thinking the Lord. And then the intelligence. How does the intelligence get purified? Intelligence gets purified by studying of the scriptures. Like now we are reading Bhagavad Gita, we are reading purports given by Prabhupada, where Prabhupada is saying how we can apply the principles of Bhagavad Gita in our life. So simply by following the instructions of Prabhupada as given in Bhagavad Gita and study of the scriptures, we will purify our intelligence. Right? Prabhupada explains how the intelligence is the driver of the chariot. So as the driver drives the chariot, the five horses, they run, right? So similarly, the mind is like the whip. So when one purifies one's intelligence by study of scriptures, and the mind is purified by the chanting of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, then all five senses, eyes, ears, nose, mouth, and skin, they all follow the mind. And in this way, the senses can be dovetailed under the supervision of the mind, which is controlled by the proper intelligence that is guided by the scriptures in the service of the Supreme Lord. In that sense, when a person engages in devotional service, then one's life becomes perfect. Otherwise, one's life becomes wasted when we live life like an animal. Because animals also engage in sense gratification. If as human beings also engage in the same activities, like Prabhupada says, we do it in a better way, but that is not the purpose for the human form of life. So we need to purify our mind by chanting Hare Krishna, purify our intelligence by the study of scriptures, and under the guidance of the mind and the intelligence, which has been purified by Mahamantra meditation and study of scriptures like Bhagavad Gita, we will train our senses to engage in the service of the Lord. Text number 43. Evam buddhe param buddhva samstabhyatmanam atmana jahi shatrum mahabaho kama rupam durashadam. Synonyms. Evam, thus, buddhe, to intelligence, param, superior, buddhva, knowing, samstabhya, by studying, atmanam, the mind, atmana, by deliberate intelligence, jahi, conquered, Shatrum, the enemy, Mahabaho, O mighty armed one, Kamarupam, in the form of lust, Durashadam, formidable. Translation and purport, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thus, knowing oneself to be transcendental to the material senses, mind and intelligence, O mighty armed Arjuna, one should steady the mind by deliberate spiritual intelligence, Krishna consciousness, and thus, by spiritual strength, conquer this insatiable enemy known as lust. Purport. This third chapter of the Bhagavad Gita is conclusively directing to Krishna consciousness by knowing oneself as eternal servitor of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, without considering impersonal voidness the ultimate end. In the material existence of life, one is certainly influenced by propensities for lust and desire for dominating the resources of material nature. Desire for overloading and for sense gratification is the greatest enemy of the conditioned soul. But with the strength of Krishna consciousness, one can control the material senses, the mind, and the intelligence. One may not give up work and prescribe duties all of a sudden. But by gradually developing Krishna consciousness, one can be situated in a transcendental position without being influenced by the material sense and the mind, by steady intelligence directed towards one's pure identity. This is the sum total of this chapter. In the immature stage of material existence, philosophical speculations and artificial attempts to control the senses, the so-called practice of yogic postures, can never help a man towards spiritual life. He must be trained in Krishna consciousness by higher intelligence. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports to the third chapter of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita in the matter of Karma Yoga, or the discharge of one's prescribed duty in Krishna consciousness. So in this chapter, we very clearly, Krishna is saying, what is karma? Karma yoga. Karma yoga means to be connected to Lord Krishna by our actions, right? And how do we perform the right actions? First is to have the proper knowledge. How do we understand? How do we get knowledge? So next chapter is transcendental knowledge, where Krishna is going to tell us how can we get this proper knowledge. But as of now, we understand that we need to purify our mind by chanting Hare Krishna. We need to purify our intelligence by study of the scriptures. And then under the guidance of such purified mind and intelligence, we need to engage our senses. Rishikena Rishikesha Sevanam Bhakti Ruchyate. So we need to engage in the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna. So in this way, when we engage our service in the service of engage our senses in the service of the Supreme Lord, right? Mana Krishna Padaravindayor Vachamsha Vaikunta Gunanuvarani. Right? Ambarish Maharaj used to engage his eyes in seeing the beautiful form of the Lord, ears in hearing about the Lord, the mouth in speaking about the Lord, and then the legs in doing parikrama to the Supreme Lord, or even in the temple. So and the hands in making nice garlands for the Lord, doing abhishek for the Lord, cooking for the Lord, and the nose in smelling the nice flowers and tulasi offered to the Lord. In this way, we can engage all of our senses in the service of the Lord. And in this way, the senses get purified. And with purified senses, we will be able to experience Krishna in our heart. When we are also chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra, in that way, we're engaging our mouth. The tongue has got two functions. One is to honor Krishna Prasadam, one is tasting function, and the other is to chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra. In both of these functions, we purify our tongue. And when our tongue gets purified, the belly and the genitals are on the same line. So the tongue, the belly, and the genitals get purified. Vacho vegam, manasa krodha vegam, jivva vegam, udarupashcha vegam. So when we control our senses by dovetailing it in the service of the Lord, we are actually performing karma yoga. We are performing actions for the pleasure of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Thank you very much for joining in. Rantraj Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srila Gurudev ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrind ki jai. Nitai Gaura Premanande Hari Hari Bol. Thank you, devotees. We will meet tomorrow when we meet for Bhagavad Gita study. Next Monday, when we meet for Bhagavad Gita study, we'll do a summary study of chapter number 3, and then we will continue with chapter number 4. Tomorrow being Tuesday, we will continue at 12 o'clock with Srimad Bhagavatam study. We are continuing from the 13th chapter of the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Dandavat.